and change your socks. Hey!
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a fireside chat with the crew, plus some special guests. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And make sure you go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. There are a couple ways that you can help support us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. You can go to our website, click on the one-time donation. You can also become a patron. That's a monthly donation. Or you can go in and get you some cool merchandise. Any of those types of things will work. And if you got a business, don't worry. You can advertise right here on the podcast as well. Big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there doing amazing work. If you don't know anything about them, you have to go check them out. Even if you do know something about them, go check them out because they're always putting up new stuff. They're always doing great things. So please go check them out. TillValhallaProject.com. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. All right, we got everybody here. We're going to go around the country. All right, around the country. Phantom, how you doing, man?
Outstanding. How are you guys today?
Oh, man, doing great. Tell us what's happening up there.
Well, I'm just super excited to be here. This is a cause that's just super important. I'm very excited to be here. I wore my Robin Williams Hello Vietnam shirt that I could find today. And I just think that this is such a big thing to be a part of. And I do want to say right now that Valkyrie is going to be doing a painting based on our subject here. And I'm just going to release the rest of my time and just say Semper Fi till we die. It's good to see you guys.
Good seeing you, man. All right, I'll jump over. Mark, how you doing?
I'm outstanding, Andrew. Southern California is just gorgeous, beautiful weather. If it wasn't for the politicians, and am I there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I cut out there for a second, but everybody else heard you, so I'm going to go along with it. It sounds good to me. Anything else, Mark?
We actually had. I'm in Orange County today, and there's actual gas price under $4. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Hey,
Unbelievable.
You guys are moving on up. I like it.
Yeah, but Orange County is a pretty
soon it'll be $1.
County, so maybe that helps.
Yeah, could be. All right, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Andrew. Up here in good old Knoxville, Tennessee. I was up here for work, and last night and today, and visit my daughter and see her. So can't complain.
Very nice.
Busy week, long week, but
yeah.
Oh, and to go to what you're saying, Mark, I had to get gas in my work truck yesterday, and man, it was terrible. It was $2.89 a gallon.
Gotta rub it in.
Yes.
I love it.
I was like, are you kidding me?
That's too expensive. I love it. Well, hey, we got a couple of as our special guests this week. We're going to be talking about Major Capers, trying to get him the Medal of Honor, but we have Sergeant Major retired Bryan Battaglia with us. How you doing, Bryan?
I'm doing fine. Thanks so much, fellas, for having us on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited that you're here. I've heard so many things about you throughout my career. I'm just excited I actually get to, I guess, virtually meet you, not in person, but virtually. It's all good. It's practically the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll, I think I owe you another time to come on a show, and we'll talk about my career and your career and have that. But I think more importantly, Major Caper's career tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very well said. And we also have Lieutenant Colonel retired Dave Bull, and I can't say your last name. I don't know how to say it.
Gurfein, like real fine.
Gurfein. Man, I should have figured that out. But hey, welcome.
Heineken,
Thanks for coming.
Budweiser, Fitz. God bless, brother. Hey, I appreciate you having me on. It's really an honor to be on here with all you warriors and to be able to talk about major capers. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kind of get into that, if you don't mind. Kind of tell us what the mission is here. What are you trying to accomplish, and what do we need to help you with?
All right. Well, thank you for asking. So we're trying to recognize a warrior who should have been recognized 58 years ago. And this Major Jim Capers, absolute superstar. He was a staff sergeant who received a battlefield commission, and then just a short 5 months later, he's in the thick of it, and he's leading Marines, and he's just a freaking incredible second lieutenant. But realistically, a staff sergeant wearing butter bars, and he's amazing. And he was recognized for all of his combat prowess, and he went into his final mission, which we'll talk about, and saved the lives of all of his Marines. He even was willing to sacrifice his own life multiple times to ensure his Marines would live. And because of a lot of bureaucratic issues, which we'll get into, he still has not received the Medal of Honor. And it's time that he receives this while he's still alive. That's really important.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we have these PowerPoints. You want me to pull one of those up, and we'll just go ahead and get into it?
Yeah, sure. Let's do this. This is let's do the slide deck that talks through his mission, the final mission, Fulak, and these were illustrations that were done by somebody who read through the witness statements, read through the citation, and all the rest, and really wanted to get behind this. And so we actually commissioned him, United American Patriots, to put together these illustrations. And he's a civilian, never served. So, we're constantly going back and forth, like, all right, no, that's not the right weapon. That's something like Darth Vader would be carrying. So we had to give them all the freaking different, we did tons and tons of research and data to make sure that he had the right weapons, right uniforms, everything we could. And I'm sure there's going to be some amazing attention to detail warriors out there, but like, no, you see that one pouch should be 3 inches. and we'll concede. So let's dive into this. So this is talking about Major Jim Capers in Fulak, Vietnam, back in 1967. Next slide, please. So he led a team called Team Broad-Minded, and these are a bunch of Force Reconnaissance Marines. They were with 3rd Force Reconnaissance. They had been over in country for, I guess, just short of a year, and they were put out on this mission to do reconnaissance of attack lanes going into this North Vietnamese headquarters. And while he was out there, from March 31st to just before the 3rd, it was to the 2nd, he's out there for 3 days. They're engaging, and they're marking trails, doing all the rest, but they're engaging the enemy. And some said that they killed up to 20 before this final day. And he had 9 Marines initially, and his war dog King, who he loved. And he actually lost one of his Marines who got a shot to the head, survived, but he had to medevac him out. And final day, he comes back, and the company he's attached to is like, okay, lead the attack. And so next slide.
All right.
So he's sitting here, and he's trying to explain to the senior officer, like, hey, sure, we're a reconnaissance unit. We're not an infantry company. Like, we don't have all the ability to go out and locate, close, and destroy. That's your mission. Our job, we did what we did. And moreover, the enemy knows we're coming. So we suggest not going back over the same trails that we just went. He's like, Marine, make it happen. And he was pretty pissed, but he's a great officer. And he's like, very well. And so he's like, he turns to his Marines and says, look, this is going to be ugly. So anybody who doesn't want to go on this final mission, you don't have to go. I have to follow orders, but you don't. I'm giving you the way out. And every single one of his Marines like, sir, we'll follow you to hell and back. And that's exactly what happened. So next slide. Sure enough, just as Capers had anticipated, he was ambushed, and it was a vicious ambush. There was daisy chain claymore mines, tore him up, shredded his abdomen, shredded his legs. Every one of his Marines went down. His war dog King was killed, and he actually credits King with saving his life because King took the brunt of one of the blasts, which had the dog not caught it, Capers says he would have been dead. So he's still mourning loss of King, who he freaking loved. But they're hit hard. And it's not just mines. There's direct fire coming in. Next slide. So he immediately takes control of the situation. And, the corpsman comes around and is like, hey, you okay? He goes, I'm fine. Check on everybody else. And he decides that, we're taking the fight back to the enemy. And meanwhile, while he's taking the fight back to the enemy, he tells his assistant patrol leader, Sergeant Yerman, get the rest of these guys out of here. And so they start moving back to an LZ while he stays and engages, and he's calling in air, artillery, mortars, danger close. He's calling in rounds on his own position, and his radio operator's like, hey, that's our grid. He goes, don't worry, they'll offset it. So he's bringing in all sorts of stuff. That's okay. You go to the next slide. And this slide, next slide is really sort of a tribute to Capers' dog. I don't believe you actually stopped the firefight to mourn his dog, but you could definitely, this is a tribute to King and how badly wounded he was, yet, his dog took the brunt. Next slide. So after Capers tells the rest of his team to take off, he takes the 2 Marines who are closest to him, and he decides we're not sitting here in a defensive position. He's taking the fight to the enemy. And as the witnesses said, as they're moving back, they're seeing Capers dropping guys as he's advancing towards the enemy. And so he's all engaged, and he does the heroic follow me. And so they did. Next slide.
Oops, wrong way.
So what's incredible is this firefight went on for about an hour of Capers and these 2 other Marines, and it's close combat. It's not like some standoff. He's in the jungle. He's throwing hand grenades. So, I don't care how good your arm is. You're not throwing a 300-yard hand grenade. This is a close battle, and he's in the thick of it, not flinching. Next slide. Eventually, the enemy withdraws, and he's able to extract, but he's using his rifle as a crutch because he could barely freaking walk at the time. Wow. And the corpsman comes out, starts bandaging him up, giving him morphine, the whole 9 yards. And you can see, he even said, get my dog on the helicopter. He made sure that the dead dog is on the helicopter. He's like, we don't leave anybody behind. We're not leaving any of our gear. So they're packing everything up. And as that's happening, next slide, the enemy re-engages. And Capers shoves the corpsman off of him, and everybody's at the helicopter or loaded on the helicopter. He goes after him until he expends all of the rounds. His M16, and he pulls out his Browning high power. I know there's going to be guys out there like, oh, we don't use Browning high power. Capers had a Browning high power, and that's a whole separate story because all the classified missions he was doing. But he engages with his Browning high power, and he's credited with killing 3 or 4 at that time. Again, that's a close battle. Even if you're a freaking pistol expert, you're not hitting beyond 30 yards, maybe if you're lucky. So he's engaged. He's dropping guys. The enemy, again, withdraws. Next slide. He can't walk at this time. His leg is broken. He had taken 2 more shots while he's engaged. He took a total of 17 shrapnel wounds and 2 gunshot wounds. So Marines had to come out and actually carry him to the helicopter. Now, you would say, okay, well, that's pretty damn heroic right there, but we're not done. So next slide. Because Capers ensured that everybody and everyone, including the dog, was loaded onto this helicopter, the helicopter wasn't getting off the ground, and it's bouncing along. So Capers, who is now bleeding profusely, he goes to jump out of the helicopter. He goes, get my Marines out of here. Leave me behind. And he goes to jump off the freaking helicopter and was willing to sacrifice his life because certainly if he didn't make this medevac out, he wasn't going to survive. Well, the crew chief literally had to physically restrain him and hold him down as the helicopter is bouncing along. And next slide. Eventually, a big gust of wind comes along. picks the helicopter up, and you can see Capers, if you look closely, he's like hanging onto the strut, or like the crew chief is holding him to the strut as they get him out of there. And I think the next slide, just a summary slide. And I think, so here's what's most telling is that all of this information came from eyewitness statements, and we have all the statements, and they're all witness signed and all the rest. And when you break it down and you compare it to other Medal of Honor recipients, and I'm not taking away from any of them, every one of them were justified in receiving the Medal of Honor. But if you break it down and you look at, their rank, their billet, the setting, whether or not they're outnumbered, what actions they took, or first of all, whether they were wounded or killed in action, actions they took in valor under fire, and with some of them while wounded, and then direct enemy engagement, meaning did they physically, personally kill somebody, and then going through and self-sacrifice, and finally, did they save lives? And when you compare it across the board, Capers meets or exceeds every single one of these situations. And we even have this article, 2 Heroes, 1 Medal of Honor, why? And it compares Capers' action to Lieutenant Graves. And Lieutenant Graves' actions were almost identical to Capers. However, he literally jumped off the helicopter to stay with a Marine that was wounded that couldn't get on the helicopter while the helicopter left.
Wow.
And this guy he was wounded as well, had a shot in the leg, and stays here, and eventually calls in another medevac. Medevac comes in, gets him out, but as they're taking off, that helicopter gets shot down and he dies. And so people are like, oh, well, that's why he got the Medal of Honor. He died. Well, if you look at this chart, there's some Marines that weren't even wounded. And so it's not a requirement to be wounded. It's not a requirement to die. It's a requirement to recognize the danger you're in and yet take action. And make sure that action exceeds that of normal heroism in combat. And so literally when you break this down, you have to question, he originally got the Bronze Star, and we'll talk about that. He eventually got the Silver Star, but you question, why did Capers only get the Silver Star? And these other deserving Marines all got Medals of Honor. And it raises the question, and I've had people say, well, you can't math your way into the Medal of Honor. Like, there's a lot of subjectivity that comes into it. Okay, what's the subjective reason Capers didn't receive the Medal of Honor? And nobody can give that. And here's the thing: like, I'm sure we've all either felt we were deserving of awards or know people who were deserving who didn't get it because of personality conflicts, and that happens. But when it comes to the Medal of Honor, when you have this much data, this much evidence, it has to be more than a personal dislike of Capers as to why he shouldn't get the Medal of Honor. So the next slide, I think, is just sort of the illustrators captured the essence of this, that here's a deserving Marine, Force Reconnaissance Marine, highly decorated, who his actions, he should receive it, yet that Medal of Honor is still not around his neck. So that's just a snapshot. That's the intro to his actions. So I'll open it up in case anybody has questions or comments, and before we go on.
Well, I want to know, like, when it comes to the Medal of Honor and resubmitting for him, right? Because you're basically re-pushing it back up. What it's kind of, how do you do that, and what are we going to do, and how do we help?
All right. Well, thank you. I think the first thing is, most people, including myself, don't understand the process. And I didn't understand the process. So I had to do my homework. And if we pull up that one slide that kind of shows the breakdown, I'll just give sort of a snapshot of what actually it takes to get there.
I'm in the wrong one. I'll find it eventually.
It's all right.
There it is. Okay.
And I apologize. I know this is an eye chart, so I'll talk it through as best I can. But in the bottom left corner, as was identified by General Regner, who is he was a congressional liaison when all this was going through, one of the most important pieces is that the command must recognize the individual for the Medal of Honor, because they're the warriors on the ground. They know what the battlefield conditions were like. They know the other Marines in their units. And so they have to be the ones that are going to initiate the process or at least endorse the Medal of Honor going through. Now, theoretically, that should then go up to headquarters Marine Corps to get the Commandant's endorsement, to get SgtMaj's endorsement, to get SecDef's endorsement. But interestingly enough, that's not mandatory. And there's historical evidence of the President of the United States bypassing the various different chain of command and going above and saying, no, this individual deserves the Medal of Honor. So the next piece, though, before the president can do that, there is a 5-year statute of limitations, which I believe was originally put into law in Title 10 that said a warrior should be recognized within 5 years. I'm sorry, must be recognized within 5 years of his action. And the intent was like, this shouldn't go on for decades. Like, if the guy deserves it, give him the freaking Medal of Honor. However, what happens is if you go over the 5 year, now you're going into this freaking bureaucratic morass, because now, because it's law, Congress has to now introduce a bill through the House of Representatives, has to go through the Senate, and then the President of the United States has to sign off on that bill to make it a law, which says, yes, we can award Major Capers or any other deserving Marine the Medal of Honor beyond that 5-year statute of limitations. And the only exception is for posthumous awards. There, they waive the 5-year statute of limitations. So once that happens, the president signs that bill into law. And then the next step is the president is afforded the opportunity to present the Medal of Honor on behalf of Congress. And there again, that's at his discretion. But he cannot award the Medal of Honor unless Congress has waived that 5-year statute of limitation. And this was a learning process for many people, including myself, understanding that, we're trying to address the Department of Defense, we're trying to address Congress, we're trying to address the president, we're trying to address the public. And there's just many different avenues of attack that we had to take to get to the point we're at now. And we still haven't sealed the deal.
Right. Yeah, and it does seem like there's a lot of steps, and what you're saying, you got to, both the civilian populace, the Senate, the House, and then, the military as well, trying to get the buy-in of all those. I'm sure you're doing other things to spread the word. I know you're on this podcast, but I'm sure you're on other media as well in other places. So, spreading the word is what we need to do.
Well, we were fortunate in that we got picked up by Fox News. They put us on the morning show, and then later on the Will Kane show, and Major Capers was on. And we've been on the Sean Ryan show. God bless them. Like, everybody's been great. Everybody recognized when they know the facts, they're like, we have to get the word out. And Marine Corps Times is great. They've run articles. They printed an opinion piece that I put out there, which pissed off a lot of people. But the truth is truth, and it's important it gets out there. But you're right. We've been fortunate. It hasn't made it, though, to mainstream media yet. And we'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So any listeners out there, if you have a connection to the mainstream media or to the president himself, let's figure that piece of the pie out. That's what I say.
Exactly. So one of the big questions, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There was a comment. It says Sergeant Major Battaglia was my sergeant major at 8th and I. When I got out in 2003, I should have listened to him and re-enlisted then, but I came back later in 2006. Semper Fi. That's retired Master Sergeant Aaron Lee Davis, who is a regular on here from time to time. So yeah,
outstanding.
All right. So one of the big questions. And there are a lot of questions, and I'm happy to address all of them because there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. There's ignorance, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. Just people don't know. And when you dig into this, the nightmare that this has gone through, the procedural errors, every single step of the way, have just made this so incredibly hard. And if we pull up the next slide again, it's probably an even worse eye chart. But I think it's important to highlight a few pieces that are important, because people say, well, if he deserved the Medal of Honor, why didn't he get it in 67? Which, that's a valid question. Well, Major General Bruno Hochmuth, who's the commanding general of 3rd Marine Division, after Capers Marines were medevaced and they're in the hospital, he personally met with every single one of them and spoke to them. And every single one of them, without exception, credits the fact that they were alive to Capers' actions. And they couldn't talk more positive and uplifting perspectives of Capers if they tried. And General Hochmuth met with Capers, and in front of his Marines, he's sitting there in the hospital, he kissed him on his forehead and said, Marine, I've never heard of anything so heroic. We're going to make sure you receive the Medal of Honor. And all the witnesses, they've seen this, they've testified to it. It's actually on video. And unfortunately, Major General Hochmuth ended up dying in a helicopter crash before he could actually act upon his intent. So while that's happening, now you have a new new captain who is the officer in charge of the Force Reconnaissance Detachment. He came aboard 3 days before Phu Loc. Didn't really know Capers, wasn't at the battle at Phu Loc. And when he heard that Capers was getting sent back to the States, he did what he thought was the right thing, which, okay, well, this is a lieutenant that served honorably, and the standard award for company grade officers is the Bronze Star with V. And so he puts him in for the Bronze Star with V, unaware of Hochmuth, unaware of Capers' actions, and unaware of what actually happened there, just thinking he was doing the right thing. And it was an end of tour award, which seemed to make sense. Now, what's interesting is that this sat for decades, and it took Capers over a year to recover from all of his wounds. And he was dealing with PTSD and all sorts of TBI and physical injuries. And while he's just coming out of recovery, the next thing that happens is they make him the poster child for the Marine Corps. And he's on the Ask a Marine poster, which I think we'll have an image comes up later. And it was one of the most successful campaigns the Marine Corps ever had. But when you talk to Capers, he's like, yeah, I was having trouble standing while that was happening. And the Marine behind me had to hold me up. And he just kept saying, hang in there, sir. We'll get through this. And so, he was in excruciating pain, which nobody realized at the time, but he made it through. And then they told him, you're never going to be able to walk again. Well, not only was he able to walk again, but he ended up taking command of 2nd Force Reconnaissance, an easy desk job, I'm sure. Not at all. But he took command of 2nd Force. And not only that, but he actually, on Marine Corps birthday, took his unit on a unit run from Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, all the way back down to Camp Lejeune. So this is a guy who is never going to walk again. I mean, just
wow.
So anyway, while this is all happening, he ends up having a reunion around 2006 with Team Broadminded, his Force Reconnaissance Marines from Vietnam. And Major General Williams at the time, who was the acting commanding general of 2nd Marine Division, was invited to this reunion. And he's talking to all these Marines, and he comes away with the exact same sentiment as Major General Hochmuth, that Capers deserves the Medal of Honor. And he's like, what the hell happened? So he does a deep dive, gets his staff to look into all of the documentation, which was just now becoming declassified because many of his missions were actually classified. And so now all of a sudden they bring all this out. They start looking at what he did. And General Williams, like, we're putting him in for the Medal of Honor. And he ended up doing a change of command with General Gaskins, who retired as Lieutenant General, who elevated Lieutenant General Stalder, who was 2MEF, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force, and they elevated up to Headquarters Marine Corps. And so here's where it gets interesting, that we don't know exactly what happened in the awards branch because there's no minutes, nobody knows who actually reviewed his end of tour award, but they ended up getting this end of tour award and bringing it to the Commandant at the time and said, yes, we need to elevate his award to the Silver Star. And at the time, General Williams like, wait a second, we put this in for the Medal of Honor. Why is it only the Silver Star? Never got a clear answer for that. And there was never any justification for any of that. So what ends up happening is then it was assessed. We had a Congressman Jones actually said, what the heck happened here? And like, oh, well, we didn't have the commander's endorsements. And that's the most important thing, is the commander's endorsement. So the team at the time, before I was on board, went out and found these commanders, and every
Right.
them, without exception, filled out the awards form recommending him or endorsing him for the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
So all of this documentation's up there. And what's interesting, even Captain Mooney, the guy who originally gave him the Bronze Star, he came around after he read the witness statements and realized what Capers did. He's like, oh, shoot, yeah, he deserves the Medal of Honor. So this whole thing's happening, and it keeps getting pushed back. Several congressmen were addressed. One of them really took the lead, who was Congressman Norman, and he decides that we're going to put this in as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. He did that around 2022 for the 2024 NDAA. Well, it passed the House. It was going up. Again, this 5-year statute of limitation had to be waived, and he was authorizing the president to award Capers the Medal of Honor. It goes up to the Senate, and something happens. It gets pulled out. Again, no explanation, no reasoning. It wasn't in the final NDAA. So this, again, it keeps pushing this thing along, and everybody keeps questioning what's going on. And so Congressman Norman, along with Congressman Murphy, they decide to submit another package for Capers. And in that package, they actually had 2 new witness statements. One was from a PFC who lost his kidney in that battle, and he was a recluse, didn't want anything to do with Vietnam anymore. He came out of the shadows, and he wrote a witness statement. Sergeant Yerman, who wrote an original witness statement, which basically they were trying to get him an end of tour Medal of Honor, which doesn't exist. Like the highest end of tour award you can give is the Silver Star. And so he refines his witness statement, goes deeper into his actions in Phu Loc. And these 2 new witness statements get submitted, and they're reviewed. And the bottom line is Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, he came back and said, yeah, we've reviewed these witness statements. There's no new information, nothing substantial. So the Silver Star stands. So
wow.
The problem is this. If they're saying there's nothing different from what was looked at originally and now, then we know the information we have is the same. And if you look at that information, you recognize Capers deserved the Medal of Honor. So the question is, why didn't he receive the Medal of Honor back when he was upgraded to the Silver Star? That's a question that hasn't got an answer. There's a lot of, questions to this, and there's a lot of, perhaps this may have happened, that may have happened. However, procedurally, if there's no new information that's adjudicated by the Secretary of Navy, then literally, administratively, everybody's hands are tied. They can't do anything. But it's not about new information. It's about the procedural errors that he was originally put in for an end of tour Bronze Star instead of the intended Medal of Honor. And later, he was upgraded to the Silver Star because it didn't go to a Medal of Honor board. It went to an upgrade board, which could only have upgraded to Silver Star. The Medal of Honor is not an end of tour award. And so really, this is where the leadership in the Marine Corps has to step up and say, hey, we made an error. And Capers does deserve the Medal of Honor, because when you look at the evidence, when you look at the command endorsements, there's no question he deserves the Medal of Honor. So that's why he is sitting here with the Silver Star right now at age 87. He's going to be 88 at the end of this month, the 25th. And he just came out of the ICU. He's still as scrappy as ever, but 88, every day's a blessing.
That's true. Yeah. And man, it's great that he's still around, but we got to push for it. Cause it'd be best to give it to him while he's alive, while he's still here. And that's what we need to get done.
It's the only answer, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a sense of urgency. There really is.
Yeah, it sounds like trying to push stuff through S2 and S4.
Yeah. So the next obvious question is, so what else is being done? And the first part is, we had 6 senators and 41 congressmen, representatives, wrote a letter to President Trump. And from what we understand, the president is aware, and he's ready, willing, and able. Well, he's not able. He's ready, willing, and waiting for this 5-year statute of limitation. And the problem is that many members in Congress are saying, well, does the Marine Corps endorse this? And they're coming back saying, there's nothing we can do. You know, he got the Silver Star. It's a good award. He should be happy with that. And there's no new information. And that's the wrong answer. The right answer is common sense will tell you that he deserves a Medal of Honor. And if the system's broken, fix the system. Don't punish the warrior. So the next piece is, and I'll turn it over to Sergeant Major Battaglia, who, you know, he said this is just wrong and we're going to take action. So Sergeant Major Battaglia, I'll let you talk about what you're doing right now, which is amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Bull. Well, when I by happenstance came upon one of Bull's social media videos describing what happened to Major Capers, I listened, you know, intently, and learned that during 2006, I was the division sergeant major at 2nd Marine Division under General Gaskin. I had no idea that the Major Capers case was being routed through. You know, of course, as enlisted, you don't necessarily get involved with officer issues or awards or fitness reports, and so it bypassed me totally. No disrespect to General Gaskin, but it was an officer issue, so it slipped right by, and I regret, but I hold myself accountable right now that I wish I would have at least had some situational awareness on it, and maybe I could have spring-loaded some sort of momentum toward it, you know, back then. So anyway, I feel responsible to this day, and it baffles me, fellas, of you look at the actions in totality and you say, end of tour or not. We know a procedural error was made by writing that end of tour. Unintentional, but a very, very important procedural leadership error. And let's correct that and just, you know, get rid of this end of tour category, transpose it into its impact category, and award the Marine his this Medal of Honor where he so rightfully deserves. That has not transpired yet, so I never knew the Corps to act like this in a way that it's become so painful to accomplish what appears to be so simple.
Yeah.
And so there have been opportunities where our leadership, our Marine Corps leadership, could have this situation, never even reached the visibility and scope of POTUS, but now it has. And so if it needed more WASTA delivered to its momentum, I just asked Bull, how could I help? And he said, hey, here's something unprecedented. It's probably never been done before, but how about you do a letter to the president and we get some endorsements like the senators and the congressmen did. And we started that effort. Of course, you know how it played out. And in short order, we got over like 120 E9s from all across the branches of service to include Space Force. And once folks read this story, they're convinced that quickly of, why is he not wearing this and hadn't been wearing it since 1967?
Absolutely, yeah.
So these names have been collected, and we're going to deliver it this week to the White House.
Awesome.
Very nice. Now, you had mentioned as far as like the Marine Corps, I'm assuming that it's gone to the commandant and everybody up there. Are they supporting this as well?
Well, I've not talked to General Smith, but I'm assuming that because of and he's engaged with some congressional leaders with the comment of there's no new information, and that's a cop out to me.
Yeah.
No new information. We don't need any new information. You take the information at hand, and you can very well see that it equates to our highest nation's award. So he can correct this right now. He can stand up. He can man up. Our commandant and go to the president, go to Congress, and say we need this 5-year limitation waived, and be the proponent of this, and come out making the Corps look very, very honorable and doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Just like we keeping our honor clean, and that's the way we take care of Marines. But it's not only a Marine Corps problem, even though it's a Marine sort of victim here, if you will. This is a DoD-wide problem because the 5-year limitation applies to all the service branches. The end of tour award, applies to the service branches that you can't exceed past the Silver Star. So that's why I went and felt the rationale to go to all the service branches, senior enlisted, and not just the Marine Corps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just one of those things that administratively, and we all run into it, while we served, right? There's administrative error, there's all kinds of stuff that happens, but there has to be a way to kind of show everyone that, hey, this is administrative, it has nothing to do with new information, and I think, I don't know how exactly to get it across. I think, Sergeant Major, you're onto something with the letter. I think that's a fantastic thing, and it's going directly to the president, but getting the commandant behind it's going to be big, in my opinion.
We would have hoped that that would have already happened, and if I hear one more time there's no new information, that's the leadership that we're not looking for. And it's not we're trying to get Major Capers his Medal of Honor. Major Capers got his Medal of Honor just by his actions.
Right.
We're just trying to
you're right.
help the process and save someone, guide these bureaucrats in making the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
As far as Major Capers is concerned, and I don't know him as well as Bull, he's not pushing this. He's a very, very humble individual. He's happy to and he's been stated to say that if this Medal of Honor comes to fruition and I get it, the first thing I'm going to do is go into Arlington National Cemetery and I'm going to show all my men what they got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what an incredible individual, though. That just shows the spirit and everything that he has going on in his heart. It's fantastic.
Man, this whole story is this is what the Marine Corps is about. I mean, this whole story feels so Marine Corps. It feels, I think we just need to get a groundswell of interested people that want to do whatever they can do, and that's why, even if it's just a painting, just whatever we can do as a group to kind of just do our little thing that is our niche to try to help out. And I think if everybody that we meet could get into that kind of feel, then you start seeing maybe what they need to see is pressure. Maybe that's the only thing that the higher ups need to feel and understand is pressure, because sometimes that's the only thing that works.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm a one-man show down here in Southern Alabama. Bull is a one-man show on the East Coast. And when I put out this message on social media and to some of my personal E9 friends, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, they're all coming to surface and wanting to be a part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in it for any of them, but it goes back to the old saying of our oath of enlistment has no expiration date. And we're just trying to help out a fellow warrior with a process that has flaws in it, and bureaucrats that don't have the combat experience behind them that they can relate to this in a manner that it needs to be related. And you'd think that they would listen to the folks like Major General Williams, Lieutenant General Gaskin, General Stalder, of endorsing this after so many years to upgrade it to a Medal of Honor, and for some reason that just didn't work out the way we hoped or wished that it would have.
And if I could just make one slight adjustment to one thing you said. I'm not a one-man show here. There are tons of people who are involved in this. And one individual, Brooks Tucker, a Marine I served with during the first Gulf War, amazing individual who's got ties on Capitol Hill, he's trying to facilitate things. General Williams trying to facilitate things. There are other individuals, Frank Roberts, Guy Simmons. There are tons of people who are trying to do whatever they can with what limited ability
Sure.
they have. They've written letters. They've spent time and energy taking capers to various different events. And there are also both active duty and retired generals who are trying to do things behind the scenes. And they're trying to be respectful of the commandant, but they've elevated this to the commandant and the assistant commandant months ago. And they've given many reasons why they perceive that they can't move forward. But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. And that's all that matters. And that's everything. That's our honor, courage, commitment. That's our semper fidelis. That's our looking out for our warriors. That it's, again, like, you mentioned, Fantom, it's the essence of being a Marine, is that you can't take counsel of your fears. Mm-hmm. You have to move forward boldly. You have to take action, and you have to fight for what's right, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Bull, that correction and adjustment. When I put this message out, AJ, I mean, there's E3s, E4s coming to me, ask, how can I get involved? I want to be put on the list. And, that would be too cumbersome to do.
Right.
And so while you honor their commitment to want to be part of the solution, and I'm going to make sure that Major Capers gets those names. Some of these folks were on active duty, and of course we protect them and can't allow that at this point in time. But Major Capers will certainly know who these folks are that have stood up, although their names won't unfortunately be on the letter. So it's not just the E9 community. There's an enlisted force that's greater and much greater. And for those folks, we would encourage that there's still something you can do, is to get in touch with your congressman and senator. And
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that packs a powerful punch, as well. And, that I endorse, and I want Major Capers to have the Medal of Honor, and this is why. And they can Google on the web, Major Capers Medal of Honor, and you'll see video snippets and things that Bull has put up there and described in great detail to get them familiarized and informed enough to where they can talk to their senator and congressman, very intellectual.
Right. And what I would suggest is the one article that I think is worth reading, and it's not because I wrote it, it's because it comes from the witness statements. And I compiled this article based upon the facts of the witness statements, and it's called Two Heroes, One Medal of Honor, Why? And it compares Lieutenant Graves and other Marines. And it when you read through this, and again, you could click and you could read the actual witness statements. This is not something that's some fantasy that I wrote, but I just pulled that information. That's the one article that everybody, without exception, when they read that article, it's sort of like taking the red pill. There's no turning back. Yeah. And that's the real eye opener right there.
Yeah, because it really was.
Because you don't, most times somebody gets a Medal of Honor, you read the citation, hopefully there's a summary of action, but you never see the witness statements. Yeah. And so you've got the raw data, and that's what's key, is that when you go to the raw data, it's indisputable.
And the raw data helped build that comparison chart, correct? Because that was a golden nugget for me, is reading that comparison chart and seeing, the bar, the standard, the precedent that's been kind of set. And to compare it to anything else is just unjust, because that was a period of time, and all the other peers, or Marines for that matter, to include Sergeant Major Canley, who was the latest Marine to receive the Medal of Honor.
Right.
There was just that was a golden nugget for me.
And which, by the way,
eye-opening for sure.
President Trump awarded Sergeant Major Canley the Medal of Honor back in 2018.
That's right.
We have no doubt that I'm 100% confident that when President Trump, he's already seen the information. He's waiting to award Capers the Medal of Honor because he deserves it.
Yeah. So if I'm an individual, I'm out there, I'm watching this podcast right now, I'm sitting on my couch, or I'm driving down the road, whatever it is. What do I do? Where do I go? And how do I support?
So I think Sergeant Major Battaglia, he hit the nail on the head. Everybody has the ability to contact their congressman or their senator, and just let them know Capers deserves the Medal of Honor. And to Sergeant Major's point, you don't even need to craft the letter. You could take the letter that's coming out from the Sergeant Major and just put a cover sheet on it and say, hey, I endorse this as well. And send it to your congressman, send it to the president, send it to the Vice President Vance, who was also a Marine, and say, or to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and whoever. But people know people, and this is where everything's beginning to permeate through the Department of Defense, through Congress, and all the rest. And the more noise that comes out there, it's hard to push back on. And just for reference, one of the easy things is at United American Patriots, UAP.org, where we fight for warriors' rights for many different reasons. We have a petition, and we've got thousands of people that have already signed that petition for Capers. And these are individuals who've never served. They're just like, we're tired of our warriors going in harm's way on our behalf and not receiving the recognition, or not having the support, or not given just the presumption of innocence when our enemy accuses them of crimes. And so we've got thousands of people who recognize, Capers deserves the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, real quick, Sergeant Major, you're sending up that letter. Where can people find that? Like, if they want to tag onto that and send it to their congressman or anything like that, how do they do that?
Well, allow it a day or so to be delivered to the White House. There are folks in D.C. who will then have copies, PDF copies, to get over to Capitol Hill and other places, other offices and agencies within the White House itself, but D.C. primarily. And there's no doubt that this will. This is not a confidential letter that's going to be close hold or embargoed in any way. So it'll be released via some social media outlets and whatever news and media outlets wish to pick it up. So it'll be out there in short order. I don't see why we couldn't give you a copy of it either, and you can publish it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will, for sure. One of the things I was just thinking about is, across the nation, when we look at all the Marines that are out there, you all have access to those media outlets in your local area. Taking this, sending an email, giving a phone call, doing something like that to these major outlets is going to be something that I think is crucial. The more outlets that we have, whether it be local and then eventually national, that's something that we really need to push. And I ask everybody out there to please reach out. Let's do something with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. This letter, for y'all's edification, will have Bull's contact information on it as well, because I think, for the past 45 minutes, I hope you're convinced that you're not going to get a better subject matter expert than what we just heard of. He can peel the onion back on this blindfolded and just produces the facts that will convince you in short order that Major Capers deserves the Medal of Honor.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're not kidding. Bull, you know what you're talking about. So, thanks for doing the research and doing everything. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. And I need to give another shout out to Kurt Lang. He's an amazing individual who he was carrying this boulder for decades, literally. And he literally got burnt out. He was like, the system is never going to change. And when first of all, it was handed over, I was like, hey, Kirk, we sit down and talk about this. He's like, you know what? I can't. I've destroyed my family, my time with my children. I've put so much into this. Like, I have to step back. And God bless him. He since has come around, and he checked in on me. He goes, hey, how you doing? You surviving? I said, yeah. He goes, you got generals giving you face shots? I was like, oh, yeah. So he's like, and he goes, what can I do to help? I said, I need more information. Like, I need the data. And he came by my house. We sat down, had some steak and a little bit of adult beverages. And all of a sudden, he pulls this whole box out. And I'm like, what? Where's this been sitting? He's like, it's been sitting in my garage. And took me about a month or two to get through all these documents. And some of the things that I'd heard before about, oh, so-and-so, didn't want him to get it for that. I found the document the individual wrote, and he wrote about capers as a water walker, and he drafted the first Medal of Honor citation. I'm like, where's this information been the whole time? So Kurt Lang, he's an amazing individual, and he really, he deserves credit. It's sort of like, he may have been the starting pitcher. I'm the relief pitcher that's coming in the last inning. But he and General Williams and everybody else, they've been carrying this for so long. And I'm literally coming in at the end trying to figure out how do we get this thing done? If football analogy, how do we get it over that final yard? And that's literally what they've carried it so far. And none of what I've been doing could have even been possible had they not done all the legwork ahead of time. And so literally, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and I respect them and I appreciate them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we're here. We're your infielders. We're your outfielders. We're here for you, and we're going to do our best to get this spread out. And in my opinion, if you're out there, you're a Marine, you're a service member out there, go to your local, media outlet, and let's get this information out there. It's incredibly important. This and you're right when you talk about this is a chink in the process, right? This is something where it has gone wrong, and it needs to be corrected, and we need to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're holding Major Capers accountable for something he had, no responsibility over and no control over. And I would also say, Andrew, and to the rest of y'all, that there are some naysayers out there too who don't believe that Major Capers is deserving. And I would welcome, especially if any of you come abreast of a naysayer that don't believe that, put them in touch with one of us. We would love to talk with them, give them the facts, peel the onion back on their information, which most times becomes disinformation. And that's one of the killers in this too, is there's quite a bit of rumor and disinformation. Bull, help me out here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spoken to quite a few people, and they've heard stories, and I've come with the completely open kimono. I'm saying, look, I'm carrying the ball right now, and so if I'm spreading disinformation, if I'm telling a lie, give me the facts, because my credibility is on the line here. And everything I've done through UAP, I've fought the facts, period. Wherever they led, I'm like, we're just going to follow the evidence. And people have brought up various different things about where Capers was born. Like, that has nothing to do with the Medal of Honor. Or, well, he didn't get a battlefield commission. He got something else. Okay, if it's called something else, that's fine. But he was a staff sergeant, and 5 months before his actions in Fulak, he was a lieutenant. And he retained his rank, unlike many people who received the battlefield commission that they had to revert after the war. He retained it and retired as a major. So, but here again, that has nothing to do with the Medal of Honor. And look, there's misinformation, disinformation, there's ignorance, and there's jealousy. And also there's also, in fairness to some of these people, they too were deserving of awards that they never received. And so there's got to be this gut feel like, why is this guy getting it and I'm not getting mine? And quite frankly, General Williams did this with another person who was saying, well, I never got my Purple Heart. And General Williams said, give me your information. We'll make it happen. And he did. And so, and I've asked certain individuals, like, look, if you have the information, we will forward it to do what we can. And unfortunately, a lot of times people just don't have the information, or their battlefield commanders just aren't alive anymore, or the witnesses aren't alive anymore. And so I don't discredit any of them. And quite frankly, I think, especially in the Marine Corps, more people are deserving of awards than we ever give out. We're the worst when it comes to awards. And we, brag about our Spartan warrior spirit. Okay. But at the same time, like, we endure enough that our Marines, when they deserve something, that's our job to make sure that they're recognized.
Well, real quick, I think that you know, for every one warrior, this is why it's so important. For every one that gets recognized, there are at least 5 that don't. And in a way, and of course, the members of their unit, they wear that for their unit and for the other people. That, you know, I haven't known of a single Medal of Honor winner that didn't say exactly that. You know, they're not wearing it for themselves. I haven't met anyone that felt like they deserved anything like that. I mean, one of the beautiful things about the Marine Corps is our teamwork spirit is different than everybody else's, and
it's a heavy medal to wear, because the perception is, you know, you must have done something so incredible, and every Medal of Honor I've ever met, extremely humble, humble. And I would say, without exception, they credit those that they served with, and they wear it on behalf of all of them. So I've been fortunate to meet these people, and it's a heavy burden. And the ones who can rise to it, they try and do some good with it. And that's why someone like Capers, who he already has a nonprofit, he's been helping people. He's been putting his own money out, trying to help people, and gives money away very freely, and we have to protect him because he tends to be a little bit too generous sometimes. We're like, hold on a second, let's vet this individual before you're helping him out. But he has a good heart. He is an absolute giver.
Now you talk about.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm about to sign off here at 01. But I do want to say that we are going to do a really ridiculously cool painting. So if you guys could send me some cool shots, I'll get to work on that right away. And that'll just be part of our Valkyrie's ability to kind of help out. And it's an honor to meet all of y'all. And just thank you for letting me be a part of it. Super Fight till we die.
I think what your painting's going to, you know, especially with the 250th birthday coming up this year, it's going to be monumental.
Well, and I'm a German Shepherd owner, and so I'm a freak about dogs. So yeah, I'm excited because my other company, the T-shirt company that we do, is called War Dogs. So we're gonna do some T-shirts and do some cool shit with it. So I'm super pumped.
And I'm just going to throw this out because I'm a big believer in willing things to happen. That when you throw it out there, God listens and kind of tries to align the universe with whatever you're trying to accomplish, assuming it's good. If not, he lets you fail. But short of that. What I'm willing to happen, what I'm throwing out to the universe, is that Major Capers wears the Medal of Honor to the 250th Marine Corps birthday ball. Whether or not that's to the Commandant's birthday ball, or right now he's already been invited to 3rd Force Recon's birthday ball, and it's going to be their final one. They're reflagging them and shutting it down, and I think he's going to be the guest of honor there, and it's a beautiful tribute. But we should all will Capers to receive the Medal of Honor before 10 November, our 250th Marine Corps birthday.
Right.
And no better tribute to our 250th anniversary than to have Major Capers with the Medal of Honor. I mean, incredible.
Absolutely.
Super fun, guys. Hoorah.
Semper Fi. Hey, do that, brother.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, sorry. He had to take off. But I think that everybody out there needs to go out and help out with this. And, you know, the different ways, if you don't mind, just go over that one more time. Now, this UAP.org, that's what I was going to ask. Does that have a lot of the information there? Like if they're going to go look for it?
There's some information. There's information that we put for this petition. You can go to my LinkedIn site, and you know, right up there, I've got the document pinned right up top. You can go through, I think, probably 90%, if not 100% of my recent information. It's either images about Capers, it's updates about Capers, it's documents. You can even find the witness statements there. Like there's all this information either on Facebook or LinkedIn. That's pretty much all I'm using it for right now, with the occasional maybe video of my daughter hitting a home run or pinning someone in wrestling. That's about it.
Hey, very important, by the way.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you got to have that out there.
Absolutely. So, yeah, other than that, UAP has been around for a while. It was actually founded by a Vietnam vet who saw the Hamdaniya and Haditha Marines being paraded through the streets in orange jumpsuits and being called murderers before any of the evidence even came out. And a Congressman Murtha, even was condemning these individuals. And so he said, these guys aren't going to get fair trial unless they have the proper defense. And he mortgaged his home to start United American Patriots, to give them the legal defense that they required. And I was honored about 7 years ago. He passed it on to me, and we've been fighting. We've been able to get pardons. We've been able to get clemencies. We've been able to get parole. And sadly, we still have 2 warriors who are still in Leavenworth. Unjustly, their rights were violated without a doubt. And there's a lot of questions about this when we've already released thousands of Taliban and 150 of the Taliban who were sitting on death row for the most heinous crimes ever. And even like these cases, they're very controversial because the media tends to go with a certain narrative. And again, a lot of people don't know the facts. And when people know the facts, whether or not they agree with the actions, they have to agree our warriors who are defending our rights deserve to have their rights defended. And that's just, that's non-negotiable. And so that's where UAP comes in, and we've got a great team that's been fighting for people. And, again, I'm honored to be a part of that team.
Very nice. I'm loving it. Well, guys, thanks for coming on and doing this. It's been absolutely amazing. I like it. Sergeant Major Battaglia, thank you for entertaining my incredibly, probably way too overbearing texts to you or messages to you. Trying to strong arm you into coming on the podcast. So it worked because here you are. So I appreciate that.
It sure did. Yeah, it sure did. I've never been known to surrender. I guess I can't use that line anymore.
Well, I am the benefactor of you surrendering this time, so I appreciate that. That's great. Just real quick, we always at the end of the podcast, we always have words of wisdom. And this can be anything. You can talk about whatever you want to do. You want to talk about major capers. You want to talk about anything else. This is your opportunity to just leave your words of wisdom with our listeners out there. So, of course, I'm going to start, Lieutenant Colonel, prior enlisted, and everybody here was enlisted. So that's a good deal. But we'll start with you, Bull. What words of wisdom do you have for everybody?
I think that there's probably a lot of warriors out there that they have a tough time transitioning from the brotherhood of the Corps. And I say that including the women that we've served with, that it's a tight-knit group. And then when we leave, trying to find purpose. And all of a sudden it becomes, now we're trying to make a living or do whatever it is. And we have a tough time. And there are plenty of ways that, even if it's checking in on our battle buddies who may be struggling as well and just talking to them. And, some of the best guidance I've ever received is, again, one of my staff NCOs, he was like, look, when you're in a firefight, don't act like a pussy. You might live. And I think it's great advice, because we end up, we become, so self-consumed and we're like, oh my God, woe is me. It's like, okay, dude, like, stop that. Like, people are going to see you. You have to be heroic. And we have to set the example for the public as well, beyond just service. And we have to say, you know what, we're all going through bad times. When you're going through hell, just keep on going and push through, because life's amazing. And there's so many people that are out there that are in worse situations. And when you get out of yourself and you start helping others, now all of a sudden, like, you're finding purpose. Even if it's one person you're helping, it's powerful. And so that's what I'd say is get out of your head, get out there, work out, whatever it is, connect with people, do not isolate, and you're worth it. That's the bottom line I've got.
Dang, Lieutenant Colonel Bull just bringing it, hitting me in the feels. That was good. That was good. Oh my gosh. Bryan, I'm sorry you have to follow that.
Wow, yeah. So
he actually wrote it. He just texted me and told me to say that. He goes, "Hey, sir, I don't want you to look stupid out there. Say this."
Look,
that was good. That was good.
I had a speaking engagement on the West Coast when I was serving as a SEAC. This was for the NCO Vanguard winners of the service branches, and so I'm the keynote speaker, right? But there's going to be people before me and entertaining and after me. so I'm not sure the run of the show. This goes to what just transpired with Bull, and I'm sitting at the table, and I got the remarks ready, and it's a well written speech, and I'm gonna bring it. I mean, it's about NCOs and excelling in performance, and so I just asked the manager of the event the timeline, who's who in the zoo, and he says, well, look, you're going to be preceded by a singer, and then you'll be followed by a singer, and then in the middle, just go up to the stage, make your remarks, and I'm sure you'll do well. This is Sergeant Major Overstreet now. He's a manager of this NCOA Vanguard, and I said, well, who's a singer before me, so I know I'm getting ready to go up. He says, well, that's going to be Lee Greenwood.
Oh, geez.
And he's singing his America song, and I said, Gene, I mean, you gotta be shitting me. You put me right before a guy like Lee Greenwood. You expect, the audience, and I mean, I did the best I could, but of course they were all magnetized to him, and he brought it. Luckily, on the back end, we had a singer that wasn't so famous as Lee Greenwood. So I get it when the boots are big to fill. I was going to talk about transition as well, but I think I'll just mention when I was young, the first book my dad ever gave me to read, and I grew up in a pretty strict Italian Catholic family, not going anywhere with religion per se, but the book he gave me was by Dr. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was probably too young, when I read it to fully understand it. I went back and, of course, read it several times over the years. But it's helped me so much with sort of mastering, navigating, and maneuvering life. Yeah. And to Bull's point, when we transition out of the Corps, there's got to be, the friendships change, just like from unit to unit. But you may not be associated with another Marine. It may be a civilian this time. And so there's some adjustment needed, but the network can't stop. And I would just say to any service member who's transitioning, don't lower your standards just because you're out of the service. If you keep them high and mighty, that's going to bring pride in yourself. And I think life will be a lot more pleasurable for you, especially when dealing with obstacles that are, obviously going to come your way. But the things that the service teaches you during the course of your career, whether it's 4 or 40 years, are all subtle survival tips for when you are no longer wearing a uniform. But there's service that you can perform and volunteer for, regardless of active, guard, reserve. Doesn't matter. Like we're doing right here. We're just playing our small little part in a bigger piece of pie, trying to help out individuals where we can.
Absolutely, man. Very well said. You held your ground very well there, Bryan. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Poor old Mark, man. He's got to follow both of you. And now Mark, normally he's the guy that comes up at the end every time, man. He's got our humdinger. He always has a humdinger. So, Mark, right, I don't know what you're going to do with this, man.
Okay, well, it's outstanding. It's a phenomenal thing that both of you are doing, and we'll try to get involved in any way we can. I know you got a great sense of duty, a powerful sense of duty to carry this through to the end. I know, Bull, you said you were the relief pitcher, but you've got that sense of duty to carry this to the end. So I will say, to fear not death, but disgrace. To fear not duty, but dereliction to duty. That is true courage.
That was good. That was good. Mark, always with the humdingers at the end. That was nice. I like it. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for coming on and doing this. Bull, Bryan, you guys are awesome. I don't care what Mark says about you. You guys are awesome. I'm just kidding. Mark doesn't say anything about you. But you guys doing a great thing. I appreciate what you do. For all the listeners, let's just make sure that we go see your local media, and let's push this as best we can. Let's get Major Capers that Medal of Honor that he deserves. and we should be able to fight for that. And I think we'll be able to. So again, Bull, Bryan, thank you for joining us. It's been a fantastic time.
Amen.
Outstanding.
God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Absolutely. Bye. Don't hang up on me yet. I'm going to do my outro, and then we'll be back after the outro. But to all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. I know all these Marines care about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you serve with, ask them how they're doing. If they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, guys, one last time, thank you very much. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.